Artificial intelligence is developing every day, and now the idea that we can create robots is no longer impossible. But that's not all. There's another terrifying idea. What if one day we invent a fully functional robot just like us? One that looks like us, has consciousness, can think, form memories, live, and feel just like we do. At that point, what would be the difference between it and a regular human? Not only that, but humans would be playing a role that's not theirs. They would be the creators of these beings, deciding who lives and who dies. In doing so, humans would be giving themselves an authority that isn't rightfully theirs. There are a lot of ethical questions and many questions being asked about this topic, and many works, movies, series, and novels have discussed all these issues. But one of my absolute favorites is the film Blade Runner and its entire world. It's a philosophical movie. It's visually stunning and starts by trying to answer in an indirect way what it really means to be human, all from within a dystopia. Of course, as soon as I mentioned Blade Runner, that movie popped into your head, right? But no, I might surprise you, I'm actually talking about the second part. And there was actually a first movie that came out in 1982. This one is called Blade Runner 2049, and it was released in 2017. As for the first movie, it was just called Blade Runner and it came out in 1982. The important thing is the world of this film. I really love it and I'm obsessed with it, but it needs a lot of explanation, discussion, and deep talk. So definitely don't miss out on watching this movie because visually it's truly amazing. And I'm trying to do something different here. I'm making the video in 4K in case anyone wants to see the details present in the film. I know you're probably just watching casually, but I'm just saying in case anyone's interested. Anyway, let's stop rambling so much and let's start diving into the world of the film Blade Runner. This is the first video where I'll talk about the first movie, and then in the next video I'll talk about the second film directed by my grandfather Ridley Scott. At the very beginning, Ridley Scott lays out the story on which the film is based. It's about how in the year 2019, yes, nothing actually happened in 2019, but the film predicts that in 2019 the world will have advanced a lot and invented robots that look like humans called replicants, the clones. They're called that because these robots resemble us 99.9%, so it becomes extremely difficult to distinguish between humans and robots in this world. So in this world, humans, they made the robots to work for them, to enslave them, and at the same time they put in place a very important law. It is absolutely forbidden for any robot to come to the planets of Earth. They only work for humans in the colonies, going to dangerous places, exploring new planets, working as servants. So basically, we have slaves, and here's where the crisis happens. Suddenly, one day, the company that made these robots developed a new type called Nexus 6. They're the closest thing to humans, faster, smarter, stronger, and better. They have emotions 100% just like us. And here's where the expected happens. These robots rebel against us and become extremely dangerous. So humans respond to them. They create special police units called Blade Runners, whose sole job is to hunt down any Nexus robot. If a Nexus 6 makes it to Earth, they have to kill it immediately, no questions asked. But they didn't call it execution, they called it retirement, just to make it sound better. And that's where the events of the movie begin. And before I start, this is the director's final cut version because there are other versions of the film that aren't as good. So let's begin. The scene is set on Earth, in a city that looks gloomy, boring, and miserable. There are flames coming out of it, and there isn't even sunlight here because humans have completely destroyed the planet. We see someone looking at the city with fire reflected in his eyes. Of course, this is an absolutely stunning frame, but you get the sense that it's a bit clever because it shows that humans are the ones who did this to the city. And then, eyes in this film are very important because you can see the human soul in them, so they can tell from that. The difference between humans and robots. He arrives at this massive building and we see one guy smoking cigarettes and another guy coming in to see him. What's strange here is, with all this imagined progress, why do they still have ceiling fans and they're not even spinning fast? Anyway, this man is giving the other man a test to find out whether he's human or a robot. We said that robots resemble humans by 99.9%. The only difference is in the eyes. There are slight differences in how their eyes respond. So, when he asks him strange and nonsensical questions, he waits for his reaction. If he reacts differently, he knows he's a robot. And as soon as he finds out, he eliminates him immediately. So he starts asking him really strange questions. The guy actually does weird things with his face, gets really confused by the questions, takes a long time to answer, and starts stammering. So the examiner starts to suspect him and says, "Tell me about your mother, describe her to me." So this guy escalates things a lot and says, "I'll tell you about my mother," then pulls out a gun and kills the examiner. And we understand that he is a robot, one of the fugitives on Earth. Then we move to the second scene in the city. Just look at the beauty and splendor. We see Asians, Japanese, and Chinese advertisements, and even a Coca-Cola ad there. So here, I'll ask you a question. Why would this whole world have a Chinese or Japanese culture? Try to answer this. We're talking about a futuristic story. Humans destroyed planet Earth because of their use of technology. So they made this world Chinese and Japanese, Why would they do that, for example? Is it possible that it's because they're afraid of Chinese technology taking over the world and the advancement of Asian people? So in every possible way, they're trying to subconsciously make you afraid and make you worry that if China or Japan controlled the world, they would destroy it with their technology. Of course not. In my opinion, I see that Hollywood uses cunning and devious methods to influence you without you even realizing it. So you end up being affected by their propaganda ideas. It's like, for example, if they want to show characters who are ignorant, backward people living in the desert, riding camels, and still living in tents to this day, as if they don't have houses, they'll portray us. It's important to continue because you'll find some people who look strange and they'll bring them here. And then we get to the hero of the movie. Deckard is sitting reading a newspaper in the never-ending rain of this world, and we see huge billboards advertising for people to leave Earth and go live in the space colonies. But we understand that those living on the other planets are basically the poor and the outcasts of society who wouldn't be able to leave the planet. Our hero goes to eat noodles and a man who looks strange approaches him. He speaks to him in a strange language and a Chinese man translates for him. This means that the whole world is just one thing. The important thing is, the restaurant owner translates for him that the police are coming for our hero. He tells him, "You're right," and asks him to mention a name he wants. He goes and rides with them, eats again, and as I said, the rain never stops here. And the city design is really impressive. And as you've seen the movie, you know it's very slow-paced. And that's an advantage for me because it takes its time showing you this world. Deckard arrives at the man who is the police chief. We learn from him that 4 replicants escaped, came to Earth, hijacked a human ship, killed everyone on board, and landed it in the streets. Now, he wants our protagonist to go back to being a Blade Runner and hunt down these replicants and eliminate them. Of course, he'll say, "I don't work here anymore," but the chief tells him, "I need you because you're the best we've got." And then in a kind of annoyingly smug way, our protagonist refuses and gets up. So here he tells him, if you refuse, you know what will happen. Either you become a cop or you become worthless. And that's the idea. As I said, the people living on Earth here are the lowest and most miserable humans, living lives that don't matter to anyone. And the second cop, Gaff, makes an origami figure in the shape of a chicken. That Deckard is afraid, and notice that the man is making shapes out of paper, which is the art called origami. We'll need this man and his art later on. Deckard agrees, and the police chief shows him the test they used on the android who fired his gun and escaped. He starts by explaining to him that 6 androids escaped from the colony, 3 men and 3 women, and killed 23 people. They hijacked the ship and came to Earth. Here. After that, they tried to break into the Tyrell Corporation, which manufactures the androids, these ones. And what happened is that 2 of those androids died. They were completely burned. So now there are 4 left. And they suspected one of them, so they came to test him, but he killed the officer who was about to expose him. That android's name is Leon. He has the ability to easily lift 180 kilos. So here, Deckard asks him a very logical question. What would make those androids, if they escaped, come to Earth in the first place and risk their lives like that? So the captain tells him, that's your responsibility, to find out and eliminate them. We learn that there's another android named Roy, and he's their leader. And he's a ruthless fighter. There's a woman named Zora, who's also a fighter, and another named Pris, who's a pleasure model android. And it shows you that we've ended up in this situation. After that, the captain tells him the same thing I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that these androids, their model was so advanced that they developed all human emotions, so people became afraid of them and put in them a device that shuts them down after 4 years, meaning any android that's made dies after just 4 years. They can't live any longer than that. Our protagonist keeps going, and damn it, Coca-Cola is everywhere, boycotting everything. Following him everywhere shows the world is now just ads. Honestly, ads are increasing everywhere daily. You're even afraid to say pigeon and find there's an ad for it. And yeah, with the tight skirt, just look at the scenes that make you feel like this movie was made just recently. Not 45 years ago. Then he arrives at those pyramid-shaped buildings. He enters a room where sunlight reflects off the pyramid and he sees an owl. In this world, all the animals are artificial. After the war, the planet was devastated and the animals were wiped out. They all died. Then this cute girl shows up. Her name is Rachel. He continues at the Tyrell Corporation, which manufactures the androids. Here, he writes down a question. Have you ever killed a human by mistake? He looks at her from the other side and says no. Bit by bit, the film's idea starts to become clear. What's the difference between you killing a human or an android, especially when the two are so similar here? Is it just because society tells you it's okay to kill them, so it becomes something that's not considered bad? And then this man arrives. And this is Tyrell, the owner of the company and the one who makes the androids. These ones. And we see the pyramid in the background. I saw an interview not long ago where the director said that the reason for the pyramids being there is that the real owner of the company is actually buried inside them. And he knew he was going to die, so he made copies of himself. Several android versions to take his place. Maybe that's not relevant, but the important thing is that our protagonist is here to test the device they use to identify androids. Is it really working or not? So Tyrell tells him, I want you to test the device on a person first. Like this girl sitting in front, he puts the device near eyes. And he starts asking her those really strange, absurd questions. He asks, If given a calfskin wallet, what would you do? She says, I'd refuse and call police. What if a child gave you a jar full of... She tells him she'd take him to the doctor. Okay, you're watching TV and suddenly someone hits your hand. She tells him, I'd kill him. And he keeps asking a lot of questions for a really, really long time. Until suddenly he stops the test. And Tyrell asks her to step outside for a bit. And here we find out that she is an android, not a human, but it took a really, really long time for him to discover that she was an android, which is strange. So we understand that the girl herself doesn't know she's an android. They're trying something new here. They implanted in the girl a lot of memories, as if she were a real human being, as if she had a real past, and they didn't tell her she was an android. Of course, this is something really terrible, and suddenly he starts playing a terrifying track in the background. The film. It actually has some of the best soundtrack tracks I've ever heard in my entire life, and throughout the film, there's this strange soundtrack that gives you a really weird, uncanny feeling. The one that surprises me the most, every time I hear it, it's Tales of the Future, because every time this part comes up, suddenly I get the feeling that there's a woman singing in Arabic. But the weird thing is, they're not even real words. It's such a strange and bizarre thing. Deckard leaves the place, and then we see again, beware, I'll say it, beware, I'll say it. And Deckard takes the strange man named Gaff and goes to the hotel where the killer android Leon was staying. He goes into the bathroom and finds a piece of snakeskin. Android Leon notices someone downstairs, and our protagonist finds photos of Leon, current and past. These are just implanted fake memories. And the soundtrack starts playing again in the background. It creeps me out. After that, we see Roy, the leader of the androids. He meets Leon. He tells him that they found a cop in his apartment. And then we start to look at the city streets, seeing how life on Earth is terrifying and backward. The two of them go together. They go to a Chinese scientist who makes the android's eyes. And they start to scare and threaten him. Here, we understand what their goal is. They came to Earth to try to extend their lives. Their 4 years are ending. They seek their creators for longer lives. But the man says, I have nothing to do with that. I just make the eyes. And he tells them to go to Tyrell, the owner of the company. He's the one who made you, the one who built your minds. So the leader, Roy, tells him that it's impossible to reach the owner of the company. He says, I want someone to get me to him. So he's told there's someone named Sebastian, and he's the one who can get you to Tyrell. And we'll notice that their leader is really terrifying. Now we move on to our hero, Deckard, who's getting into the elevator. He's heading up to his apartment and he seems sleepy, like he hasn't noticed anything. But suddenly, he realizes that the girl, Rachel, is with him in the elevator. He lets her into the apartment and she says to him, you think I'm a replicant, right? He takes a drink and looks at her. She shows him a photo and says, look, that's me with my mom when I was little. He replies, really? Well, do you remember when you were 6 years old and you and your brother went into the empty building through the basement window? And he starts to continue. He tells her personal memories that she has never shared with anyone before, because the truth is, all these memories are implanted inside her. They're not real. The real owner of those memories is Tyrell's niece, whom he invented her from. So of course she starts crying and breaking down because now her very identity is a lie. He realizes he's messed everything up, so he says, no, I was just joking with you, really, you're not insignificant or anything. But she cries when she learns this very shocking truth. I mean, just imagine if all your memories someone told you, suddenly you find out they're not real and that you yourself aren't even human. So she throws away her photo with her mother and leaves. Gradually, he starts to feel sympathy for the replicants. He goes and picks up her photo with her mother. But what's strange is that for about half a second, you feel like the photo moves. But there's something even more curious and bizarre here. Did you notice that up until now, we still don't know if he's human or a replicant? I mean, so far, we really have no idea. We saw that this girl, she thought she was human, but in the end, she turned out to be a replicant. He looks out from the balcony. Then another girl walks the streets. She sits amidst trash, covers herself and sleeps. Suddenly, she encounters a strange man. She gets startled on sight and runs away, bumping into a car and breaking the glass with her hand. And it's worth noting here that this actress actually hit the glass, broke it with her hand, and injured her hand as well. He calls out, telling her she dropped her bag. She grabs it aggressively, saying, I'm lost. He replies, don't say that, I'm not going to hurt you. And look, where is he looking? He asks her, what's your name? She tells him, Percy. And you? He tells her, Sebastian. And we understand that this is the android girl who belongs to the leader and Leon, and that this is Sebastian, the one they're looking for. Of course, it's all very, very cliche. If you want to get to any man in the world, just bring him a girl to tempt him and that's it. He'll go with you. So the girl tells him, I'm hungry and I don't have a place to stay and all that. So he tells her, all right, come to my place, eat and rest for a bit. And she actually goes in with him, and then he starts acting in this strange, bizarre way again, Sebastian. Now, honestly, he's living alone in this entire terrifying building that's full of angel statues, and he goes upstairs. She says to him, of course. You feel lonely, so this crazy, strange guy tells her, I made friends. And then, honestly, he enters this scene and says he created robots, bodies dressed in strange clothes, and those are the friends he made. Then it cuts to our hero, who's lying on his piano, either asleep or awake, having a very strange dream. There's a unicorn and the horse is running through a foggy forest. The unicorn scene only appears in the director's cut, which was added later, and it's an important scene because director Ridley Scott is trying to be clever and make you doubt the film's protagonist. It's that he's a replicant, because in that scene, he's holding photos or memories of Leon that aren't real, and he's dreaming of imaginary memories. Also, Ridley Scott's protagonist is kind of cringe. Now he investigates Leon's photos and discovers another replicant with a piece of snake skin on her body, matching the one from Leon's bathtub. He prints her picture and heads to the crowded, impoverished streets to show the scale to a local. She identifies it as snake skin and refers him to someone named Abaus Maitinilatakas. Abd ibn al-Hassan is the one who made this snake. And let's pause here. This is something that really annoys me about foreign movies. There is no one in real life. His name is just Abd. I'm Abdullah, not just Abd. No one is named, just Abd. I'm proud of my identity, but what's worse is how Hassan walks through the chaotic market to reach Uncle Abdo. Wearing a tarbouche, he's Egyptian, but this man exposes him. Because when he grabs his tie, he confesses that he sold out to the enemy right away without even hitting one of the few people there. Her name is Surah, so he goes to one of these future cabarets, starts drinking, and then calls Rachel and talks to her on video. Cool, huh? In the 80s, this movie is from 1982. And here, they predict that we'll be talking to each other on video. Cool, I'm just saying, he tries to talk to her but she hangs up before cashing out and slams the door in his face, so he keeps drinking. But suddenly, he sees that the girl he's been looking for is about to perform at the place with her snake. So he waits for her to finish, then goes to stop her, and changes his voice to a soft tone telling her, "I'm from the American Artists Union." He tries to act, but his acting is really bad. And it's obvious that he's trying to fool her, so after a lot of his bad acting and talking, she catches on. She realizes that he's one of the Blade Runners, so she hits him and runs away. He chases after her, and meanwhile, there's a dwarf here who starts throwing things at him. Then he begins to chase her all over the city, and we see that the people in the street are very different from each other. They have different religions and very different lifestyles. Eventually, he shoots her in the middle of the street several times, and she dies in slow motion. Now she's seen as worse and less valuable than animals. She's like an insect now, so he crushes her in the middle of the street and no one cares. But notice that the androids here bleed like humans because they're so close to us. Then her android companion sees her dead on the ground, and look at how colorful this shot is. This is also a great track in the background. I just wanted to express my admiration for the shots today. The film and the soundtrack. These are important tracks. Now, we're in a different place because our protagonist is deeply affected by having killed her. He's developed compassion for them. So he goes to get some alcohol to drink. And we notice that as the film progresses, he drinks more and more because he feels more and more compassion for them. The officer comes to him and takes him to the police chief, who tells him that there are 4 left for him to kill. He asks him, how come? Only 3. He tells him no, Rachel, the replicant. When she found out she was a replicant, she ran away. So he tells him that he has to go kill her too. They walk away while he stands there in shock. He looks at the one standing at the end of the street. He follows and investigates. They ask his age, so our hero stops the beating and asks, how much time do I have left? For 4 years, he beats him badly. He disarms the man and continues the assault. Just as he's about to kill him, someone shoots the man dead. Our hero finds Rachel saved him with the fallen weapon. He takes her home, seeing her shake because she killed him. He sees her as more and more human, and the hunter falls in love with Faristo. One of the beautiful details in the film here is that we see him drinking this liquor and he bleeds into the glass because he's still badly beaten and wounded. I wonder why she put on those shoulder pads that make her look like Steve from Minecraft. And when she comes closer to him and tells him, if I run away to the north, will you come after me to kill me? He says, no, but someone else will be sent to kill you. She starts by asking him about her age. By God's grace, how long will I live? And she asks him, did you do the android test on yourself or not? This is another hint about whether the protagonist is human or an android, but we discover that he was asleep through all of this and had left her, so she goes to change her hairstyle and her appearance changes. Much better. She starts playing the piano, so he wakes up and they hang out together. We return to the base and she puts black makeup around her eyes, trying to look like the replicant from Sebastian. Sebastian is only 25 years old, but he has a medical condition that makes him look much older, which is why he is confined to Earth. Because we discover that those who go to the off-world colonies must be healthy, and we see how many of the robots in this section are connected. Then Roy, their leader, arrives and Sebastian is introduced to him. And Roy tells him that all the other robots' companions have died and only the 2 of them are left, and he is very upset about it. Look at this frame. How did he do it? After that, Sebastian tells them that he made things from their insides and asks them to show off their skills. So he said to him, we are not machines, and the girl says to him, I think therefore I am, which is one of the most famous philosophical sayings in history by Descartes. But the girl starts to show off and puts her hand in boiling water. Nothing happens. She demonstrates her skills. And Roy tells them, we are just like you, the 2 of us wear out quickly. And he tells them that they must help them. So he tells them, I don't know anything, I'm just a genetic engineer. But we find out that he plays chess with Tyrell, the owner of the company. So they grab him and pressure him to take them to Tyrell, their creator, so he can extend their lives. He turns out to be very naive. They flatter him a bit and tell him, "You're our only friend," so he agrees. And he actually takes the leader, Roy, and brings him to Tyrell. Tyrell wonders why Sebastian is visiting now. Asking what's happening, Sebastian wins with a chess move taught to him by the leader, Roy. This shows you that the androids are smarter than humans. So Tyrell says to him, "Alright, come here." Yes, they go in with Roy, and now it's an epic moment because he's now meeting his creator. Just a human who decides when to let him die and when to let him live. In a very calm scene, Tyrell asks him, "What do you want your creator to do for you?" Roy says, "I want to fix what he made." Tyrell asks, "What's the problem?" Roy replies, "Death. I want a longer life, father." But his father tells him that it's impossible to change. After he was created, that's it. They sit and discuss things together, and in the end, we discover that it's impossible to change his lifespan. And here, Roy is shocked. But Roy says to him, "I've done some really bad things." And Tyrell replies, "And you've done some good things too. Enjoy your final moments." So he looks at him and smiles. Then he crushes his face and sticks his fingers in his eyes until he kills him. Because this man is just a human being. But as usual, humans try to play a role that isn't theirs. He tried to create or control death, and in the end he fell because he was a fraud. Just a human. I feel like this scene is full of outright blasphemy. I mean, I can't tell. Did they intend it to be blasphemous? You can tell me your opinion in the comments, but I'll tell you, my interpretation is that humans really give themselves a much bigger role than they should, especially in this movie. Now they've destroyed planet Earth, and they killed all life and all the creatures living on planet Earth except for themselves, and they created robots and gave them feelings and emotions that enslaved them and controlled their lives. And they decided when they live and when they die, and not only that, now they're now going to colonize space and other planets, so they've given themselves absolute authority, and they're the ones who decide what's right and wrong until in the end, the robot that we created rebels against its creator. We see Sebastian running and repeating, and then we move to our protagonist, who is he hears the news that Tyrell has been killed and that Sebastian was also killed. While he's listening to this news, a gang of replicants attacks him. They try to steal his car, so he actually goes to Sebastian's house, and we see a dwarf walking around the apartment, and the female android is pretending to be a mannequin so he doesn't see her. The scene, he finds this very suspicious. It doesn't feel right at all, but as he looks around, he starts to notice things. So she attacks him. She starts doing acrobatic moves, hits him again, chokes him, and does all sorts of crazy things. Then Deckard quickly pulls out his gun, shoots her, and she dies from the electric shock. And with that, now only Roy is left, and he comes for him too. The upcoming fight is absolutely absurd and hilarious because there's a huge difference in strength. Between the two of them, Deckard keeps shooting and walking around looking for him. Then Roy breaks through the wall and grabs his hand, the one holding the weapon. He takes his gun and breaks his fingers, both of them. Then he gives him the gun back. He's mocking him, basically. So Deckard shoots at him. The shot hits his ear and injures him. And to add to the mockery, Roy tells him, "I'll count before you try to escape from me." He really does start to run away, completely powerless. And meanwhile, the other guy goes to the dead girl and mourns her a little. Then he chases after the hero, and now the hunter becomes the prey. He starts howling like a wolf, scaring and chasing our hero. At the same time, he tries to escape through the roof, and we see that his hand stops working altogether because his time in this world is up. So he pulls out a nail and stabs it into his hand, wanting to feel that it's not working. Our hero escapes through the roof. Suddenly, he finds a dying Rowan who tells him, "Run quickly before he catches you." Our hero hits him with a metal rod, then climbs to the rooftop where the villain waits. The villain pursues him, so our hero jumps off the roof. He falls, the villain follows, and Rowan saves our hero from death. And now, forget all the jokes that happened before, because right now comes one of the most famous and important scenes and dialogues in cinema. But wait, why is he saving him now? This guy killed his friends, the girl he loves, and even tried to kill him too. But here, he chooses to forgive him, to show mercy. He chooses to be better than humans. Humans who kill for no reason. He sits in front of him and says to him, "I have personally seen it. Things people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. And he says that all his memories and the moments he lived will be lost in time, like tears in rain. He looks at him and says, 'It's time for me to die.' He smiles and dies right before his eyes. And we discover that the villain of the story, the android, is actually the most human character in the whole story. He's the one who chose to be merciful now, at a time when the human in front of him just wanted to finish him off without him having done anything to deserve it. And before he dies, he talks about the thing that upsets him most, or the thing he cares about most, the memories and the things he's seen. That's what saddens him the most, that they'll be lost and that he'll be forgotten in history. Like a tear falling in the rain. Now it has no value at all, and no one even notices it. This makes you think about what? The meaning of being human. The irony here, and what's funny, is that this machine is the one teaching us what? The meaning of being human. It's the one making the person in front of it understand what it means to be human, to be alive, to feel, to experience, to love, to try different things, to have memories, moments, and emotions. All of these are what give you meaning or give meaning to being human. Botna feels sorry for him as cop Jeff arrives, revealing he actually speaks English. Jeff says it's unfortunate she won't survive, implying he killed Rachel. Terrified, Botna rushes home but finds her alive. He decides to flee with the replicant he loves, vowing to stop killing robots. Before escaping, he finds a paper horse on the ground, a unicorn. This is a message from Jeff, indicating that he had been there before, refused to kill her, and gave him a chance to escape with her, so we understand. Here that even this man doubts the system, and our hero and the replicant escape, and the movie ends. And up until now, they still haven't said whether Deckard is human or not. I feel like Ridley Scott, the director, puts the unicorn at the end and all these little details to make you doubt that he's not human, so you'll remember him. A replicant. But in my opinion, Ridley Scott really needed to calm down a bit and stop being so cringy, honestly, because there's no way he's a replicant. He's definitely human. If he were a replicant, the movie wouldn't make any sense at all. I had to talk about this movie because everyone wants me to talk about Blade Runner 2049, and I will soon. And I feel like they're going to come kill me if I don't talk about it, so that's it. That was everything you needed to know about the first movie. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Instagram and all that stuff. That's all. Goodbye.